welcome to another tutorial video. After I posted all the chapter notes for Of Mice and Men, some people got in touch and asked me for a kind of top 10 quotes for each of the characters. I couldn't really do a top 10 because there's a lot more to pick than that, but I tried to pick out what I thought were the most important quotations from each chapter, and I've put them up here. So we're going to go through each character at a time, each of the main characters. The one character whose name I haven't done is Crooks, because basically what I've got for Crooks' notes in section 4 is pretty much everything for Crooks, so you can just look at that one again. There's no point making two of exactly the same video. So we'll go first of all with George. In the very first chapter you've got, "You've never had none, you crazy bastard. I've got 'em both here. Think I'd let you carry your own work card." And this shows us three things. First of all, it shows us the antagonistic attitude, or sometimes the frustrated attitude, should I say, that George has towards Lenny, and obviously the way he looks after Lenny. And again, he ends with the what turns out to be a rhetorical question, because of Lenny's incompetence. So we get Lenny's incompetence shown to us, as well as the attitude that he normally has towards him. So this kind of tells us a lot about George, kind of frustrated with his life, which is going to come across later on. Here we have him saying to Lenny, "And you ain't going to do no bad things like you've done in Weed." That gives us obviously a little background to the trouble that they've been in before, and obviously the commanding relationship that he has over Lenny, telling him what he can and can't do. And then obviously we have one of the most important quotations from the book, and the way the writer Steinbeck leads us into it's really important, because George's voice becomes deep, showing that he really means what he's saying, and his words become rhythmic, so it's showing he's actually, it's a mantra to him, something he's said many times before. And guys like us that work on the ranches are the loneliest guys in the world, and that's basically summing up the whole plight and the situation of an itinerant worker. They are lonely. They live in a world of men who don't want to get too close to other men in a friendship sense, and anyone who does is regarded as slightly peculiar. So it kind of sums that up for us. Yeah, then we have, well, with us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. It stresses how important Lenny is to him, and obviously how unique their relationship is going throughout. So then later on, when the boss is questioning them, he says, "We travel together," which is really important, because he says it coldly, as in, he'll defend Lenny, and obviously he's defiant to people that question their friendship, etc., and perhaps obviously resenting the fact that people trying to hold him back or begrudge him a friendship just because they haven't got one. Obviously we see his wisdom and his foresight in the fact that he warns Lenny about impending trouble, which is foreshadowing what comes later in the book. You're going to have trouble with that curly guy, and so it's kind of friendly advice, setting Lenny up to beware. Again, there's another piece which relates to him not only picking up on trouble that's going to come Lenny's way, but also the extent of how bad the trouble will be. "I've never seen no piece of jailbait worse than her," referring to Curly's wife. "You leave her be." Again, the paternal aspect of George looking after Lenny. When he's talking to Slim, and Slim's complimenting him in some way, we get a real insight into what George thinks of himself. "Even if I was a little bit smart, I'd have my own place, and I'd be bringing in my own crops instead of doing all the work and not getting what comes up out of the ground." And then he falls silent. So there's a kind of summation of his life. He knows that he's wasting his time, or not fulfilling his potential, or maybe he's not as smart as other people think he is, but something's holding him back, and he's kind of settled into the routine that everyone else is in, rather than trying to make something for himself. And I think that one's really important, because it shows, maybe in looking after Lenny, that is the reason that is the reason that situation's come about. But it could also be that he's using Lenny as an excuse to keep himself in a position where he doesn't have to try and live like everyone else. This is really important a little later on, when they've just discussed the dream. George sits, he's entranced with his own picture, just showing how powerful the lure of the dream is, and how it can really keep people preoccupied. And obviously the effect here we have is physical. It's such a powerful dream, and such a wonderful thing to them, that it keeps him entranced in his own world. Obviously we've got the command here to Lenny, and obviously it shows that he can boss Lenny, and Lenny will react to exactly how he will exactly at George's command. But also the get him Lenny is also like a command to an animal, like a command to a dog, like get him or sick him or sit boy, and the brevity of that, the shortness of that, reflects the animal-like command. When he comes back from town and he finds Candy, Crooks and Lenny talking, and they're in not the best of spirits. He says, seems like I can't go away for a minute, so it kind of shows his responsibility, and it also gives us a little bit of foreboding, because we understand that any time he goes away, trouble could happen. So in section 5, when Curly's wife comes in and it's just Lenny there, we get some idea that something bad will happen because he's not there. And after he finds the body of Curly's wife, he says, I'll take my $50, blah, 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 and I will go to a cat house, a pool room, then I'll work another month and have another $50 to do the same thing again. So that's completely defeated. That's completely given up, throws his hands in the air. He doesn't want to have anything to do with his dreams and conquests. So in that sense, he wants to simply just numb the pain of his life, and that's how he's going to numb the pain from distraction and alcohol. And really sad at the end, just before he shoots Lenny, he has to tell him that he's going to make everything okay, and he's doing it for Lenny. Everybody's going to be nice to you now, and there ain't going to be no more trouble. And he understands that he has to do this for Lenny to have, for Lenny to avoid punishment and pain. And we see in that exactly what he wants for Lenny and how he wants this is final act of care for Lenny. And lastly, we've got the power of George, the intent of George here. His hand shakes violently as he's about to take the gun, but his face set and his hand steadied himself, which shows us in a way that he could achieve things if he wants to. He can bring himself to do certain things if the situation needs be. And that selection on George hopefully is probably about 10, 15 quotes, I don't know, but basic quotations, and hopefully that will be of use. So I'm not saying that they'll be able to answer anything on George, but basically if you kind of follow this, you get a feeling for who he is, and here's some important points. There are many other points which you might pick up, say, what about this one, what about this one? And obviously feel free to use them. I'm just saying that these ones, some of the other ones are repeated in, so any, fat of the land, sorry, that's not his phrase, anything about the American dream, etc., is, kind of a mirror or a synonym to this point, etc., etc. So, as you go through it, just pick and choose, and hopefully that's more concise than the other notes and reviews.